Sport is something that we all as human beings love. Sport is what we do when we thrive as people, when we live at peace. And the spirit of Olympic Games is the spirit of peace. What Russia is doing in Ukraine, what Russia has done in many countries before that, is a complete opposite to that. So there is no place for aggressive states like Russia and anyone who's helping them like Belarus in the peaceful Olympics. It's not just Putin's war. It's Russian Federation's war, and the majority of people and the majority of sportsmen from Russia unfortunately support this. At the beginning of this war in 2014, we were hoping for people who engage in sports or culture from Russian Federation to actually be vocal against it, to stand with all the civilized world. Unfortunately, we can clearly say today that people in sports not only are not speaking out, but they support this war. This is exactly the reason why they shouldn't be allowed to participate in sports.
What would you say to a Russian athlete?
You don't want to tape it.
Russia is waging a violent war in Ukraine, killing thousands of civilians, including, of course, athletes.
A young life, once full of hope for the Paris Olympics, cut short.
More than 400 sport facilities was destroyed, directly targeted by Russia. We are losing generations and generations of athletes in this country, while they allow Russian and Belarusian to compete again.
International Olympic Committee appear to have doubled down on their stance to allow Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete in Paris next year.
Why should Russians and Belarusians get to compete in Paris when many Ukrainians can't?
It's an absolute spit in the face of all the Ukrainian athletes, because Russian athletes and Belarusian athletes are preparing in warm conditions with full capabilities and financial support from the country.
The IOC says athletes shouldn't be discriminated against based on the passport they hold.
Ukrainians have no place to prepare, no electricity, no means of travel. A lot of our athletes cannot return home because of the drought.
If Russians were allowed to compete, it would legitimize Russia's actions and give President Vladimir Putin a propaganda boost.
Vladimir Putin has used athletes, most of them are part of the military, to sell the propaganda of war and unity within their country.
It's a mental punishment for Ukrainian athletes to be in the same line with Russian, because predominantly 99% of Russians support this war, support the killing of Ukrainians.
Олімпійський рух і держави-терористи точно не мають перетинатися.
Ukraine will prevail, Ukraine will survive. The question is how many lives we'll have to lose to win.